Book of Genesis chapter 5 and chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. Generations, Adam to Noah. This is the record of the descendants of Adam. When God created man, he made him in likeness of God. He created them male and female. When they were created, he blessed them and named them man. Adam was 130 years old when he begot a son in his likeness, after his image, and he named him Seth. Adam lived 800 years after the birth of Seth, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Adam was 930 years when he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he became the father of Enosh. Seth lived 807 years after the birth of Enosh, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Seth was 912 years. Then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he became the father of Canaan. Enosh lived 815 years after the birth of Canaan, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Enosh was 905 years. Then he died. When Canaan was 70 years old, he became the father of Mahalalel. Canaan lived 840 years after the birth of Mahalalel, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Canaan was 910 years. Then he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he became the father of Jared. Mahalalel lived 830 years after the birth of Jared, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Mahalalel was 895 years. Then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he became the father of Enoch. Jared lived 800 years after the birth of Enoch, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Jared was 962 years. Then he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. Enoch lived 300 years after the birth of Methuselah, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Enoch was 365 years. Then Enoch walked with God, and he was no longer here, for God took him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. Methuselah lived 782 years after the birth of Lamech, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Methuselah was 969 years. Then he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he begot a son, and named him Noah, saying, "Out of the very ground that the Lord has put under a curse, this one shall bring us relief from our work and the toil of our hands." Lamech lived 595 years after the birth of Noah, and he had other sons and daughters. The whole lifetime of Lamech was 777 years. Then he died. When Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The Book of Genesis chapter 6. Origin of the Nephilim. When men began to multiply on earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of heaven saw how beautiful the daughters of man were, and so they took for their wives as many of them as they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not remain in man forever, since he is but flesh. His days shall comprise 120 years. At that time the Nephilim appeared on earth, as well as later, after the sons of heaven had intercourse with their daughters of man, who bore them sons. They were the heroes of old, the men of renown." Warning of the flood. When the Lord saw how great was man's wickedness on earth, and how no desire that his heart conceived was ever anything but evil, he regretted that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was grieved. So the Lord said, "I will wipe out from the earth the men whom I have created, and not only the men, but also the beasts and the creeping things, and the birds of the air, for I am sorry that I made them." But Noah found favor with the Lord. Psalm 5, Prayer for Divine Help. For the leader with wind instruments, a psalm of David. Hear my words, O Lord. Listen to my sighing. Hear my cry for help, my King, my God. To you I pray, O Lord. At dawn you will hear my cry. At dawn I will plead before you and wait. You are not a God who delights in evil. No wicked person finds refuge with you. The arrogant cannot stand before you. You hate all who do evil. You destroy all who speak falsely. Murderers and deceivers the Lord abhors. But I can enter your house because of your great love. I can worship in your holy temple because of my reverence for you, Lord. Guide me in your justice because of my foes. Make straight your way before me. For there is no sincerity in their mouths. Their hearts are corrupt. Their throats are open graves, and their tongues are subtle lies. Declare them guilty, God. Make them fall by their own devices. Drive them out for their many sins. They have rebelled against you. Then all who take refuge in you will be glad, and forever shout for joy. Protect them, that you may be the joy of those who love your name. For you, Lord, bless the just. You surround them with favor like a shield. Matthew chapter 4. The temptation of Jesus. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread." He said in reply, "It is written, 'One does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God.'" Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand on the parapet of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, 'He will command his angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone.'" Jesus answered him, "Again it is written, 'You shall not put the Lord your God to the test.'" Then the devil took him up to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their magnificence. And he said to him, "All these I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me." At this Jesus said to him, "Get away, Satan. It is written, 'The Lord your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve.'" Then the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and ministered to him. The beginning of Galilean ministry. When he heard that John had been arrested, he withdrew to Galilee. He left Nazareth and went to live in Capernaum by the sea, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali, that what had been said through Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, the way to the sea beyond the Jordan. Galilee of the Gentiles, the people who sit in darkness have seen a great light. On those dwelling in a land overshadowed by death, light has arisen. From that time on, Jesus began to preach and say, "Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." The call of the first disciples. As he was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, casting his net into the sea. They were fishermen. He said to them, "Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. He walked along from there and saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, mending their nets. He called them, and immediately they left their boat, and their father followed him, ministering to a great multitude. He went around all of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and curing every disease and illness among the people. His fame spread to all of Syria, and they brought to him all who were sick with various diseases and racked with pain, those who were possessed, lunatics, and paralytics, and he cured them. And the great crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, and Judea, and from beyond the Jordan followed him. The Catholic Catechism, paragraphs 26 through 30. Part 1, Profession of Faith. Section 1, I believe, we believe. We begin our profession of faith by saying, "I believe," or "we believe," before expounding the Church's faith. As confessed in the Creed, celebrated in the liturgy, and lived in observance of God's commandments and in prayer, we must first ask what "to believe" means. Faith is man's response to God, who reveals himself and gives himself to man, at the same time bringing man to a superabundant light as he searches for the ultimate meaning of his life. Thus we shall consider that search, chapter 1, then the divine revelation by which God comes to meet man, chapter 2, and finally, the response of faith, chapter 3. Chapter 1, man's capacity for God. The desire for God. The desire for God is written in the human heart because man is created by God and for God, and God never ceases to draw man to himself. Only in God will he find the truth and happiness he never stops searching for. The dignity of man rests above all on the fact that he is called to communion with God. This invitation to converse with God is addressed to man as soon as he comes into being. For if man exists, it is because God has created him through love, and through love continues to hold him in existence. He cannot live fully according to truth unless he freely acknowledges that love and entrusts himself to his creators. In many ways, throughout history, down to the present day, men have given expression to their quest for God in their religious beliefs and behaviors, in their prayers, sacrifices, rituals, meditations, and so forth. These forms of religious expression, despite the ambiguities they often bring with them, are so universal that one may well call man a religious being. From one ancestor, God made all nations to inhabit the whole earth, and he allotted the times of their existence and the boundaries of the places where they would live, so that they would search for God and perhaps grope for him and find him. Though indeed he is not far from each one of us, for in him we live and move and have our being. But this intimate and vital bond of man to God can be forgotten, overlooked, or even explicitly rejected by man. Such attitudes can have different causes: revolt against evil in the world, religious ignorance or indifference, the cares and riches of this world, the scandal of bad example on the part of the believers, currents of thoughts hostile to religion, finally, that attitude of a sinful man which makes him hide from God out of fear and flee his call. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Although man can forget God or reject him, he never ceases to call every man to seek him, so as to find life and happiness. But this search for God demands of men every effort and intellect, a sound will, an upright heart, as well as the witness of others who teach him to seek God. You are great, O Lord, and greatly to be praised. Great is your power, and your wisdom is without measure. And man, so small a part of your creation, wants to praise you. This man, though clothed with mortality and bearing the evidence of sin, and the proof that you withstand the proud, despite everything, man, though but a small part of your creation, wants to praise you. You yourself encourage him to delight in your praise, for you have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you.